आपके दरमियान एक बहुत अच्छी honor है, and yes, in order to hold up the bilingual portion of आपके सब्र का बहुत शुक्रिया. I will continue my brief remarks and interventions in English, one of the official languages of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Well, I'm glad, Bayami, thanks again for the invitation to speak with you. It is great to be here among you today. I've only been in Pakistan for 7 months in my assignment with the U.S. Embassy. As Ali Sahib mentioned, I'm with our Public Affairs Office, and I'm the director of a small office that works with Pakistani civil society groups and engagers, and our office logically called the Community Engagement Office. So what I will briefly speak about, per Ali Sahib's request, is how I view in general, as well as the current state of American-Pakistani cooperation, as well as a few areas of differences in terms of promoting peace, tolerance, and a more inclusive and intercooperative society in Pakistan and indeed around the world. So I will start off just very briefly talking about the current U.S. government and recent elections, especially since our expert here mentioned the somewhat interrelated phenomena of Brexit, Mr. Modi's government in your brotherly neighboring country of India, and to many, or to most, the surprise victory of President Donald Trump in our hotly contested national elections. Obviously, at this point in the early 21st century, and I think we see this in Pakistan in many ways, which is a crucible of some of the good and not so good trends of what's happening in terms of peace and peace building around the world. We're seeing this worldwide, and America is no exception. In America, too, there are grievances based on perceived and real class and race divisions, socioeconomic divisions. This is also largely what drove the ultimately successful vote in favor of the Brexit, which now under Prime Minister May is being concretized and will go through. I think we're at a very key turning point in the world's history right now, and I think what happens in many countries of the world, but including and especially larger influential states such as Pakistan, such as Great Britain, such as the United States, India, China, and Russia, I think the next 5 or 10 years will determine a much longer phase of how humanity will coexist or not coexist. So just briefly regarding the current U.S. administration, obviously it's a different and in many ways unique kind of administration. It's very young, 3 weeks old. It's just now, President Trump is just now beginning to fill his cabinet positions. We have a Secretary of State, my boss, Rex Tillerson, the former CEO, not to be confused with my CEO office, of Exxon, who obviously has 30 years of experience running one of the world's largest corporations that has more income, or generates more income than the majority of world's nations, including Pakistan. So we hope that this business experience and his extensive professional and interpersonal experience with world leaders, such as the Russian president, will help in guiding our own State Department as the new administration concretizes and articulates its foreign policy. So, with that said, let me turn to the more general aspects of U.S. foreign policy priorities and what governs our work here in Pakistan in terms of our relationship with Pakistan. Obviously, I think you know that our U.S. mission, our U.S. embassy here is one of the largest in the world. The U.S. Agency for International Development, which has provided billions of dollars to Pakistan over the decades and continues to spend hundreds of millions of dollars each year on infrastructure and education and development projects throughout Pakistan, in the largest cities to the smallest gaons. Our partners at USAID have that covered. I won't talk about the military cooperation and assistance. I think that's very well known to all of you, and I don't think that's really germane as such to the brief time I have. But obviously, our cooperation with Pakistan is one of the most expensive and heavily funded and diverse of our government's cooperation with any nation in the world. Pakistan, I could use all the cliches, is a frontline state, is a critical state, is a state, and I use the word crucible. It's a crucible for ideas, good and bad, information, and they've all been touched on here today. You know, Pakistan is tested severely for its ability to cohere and progress as a nation. You know, since before Pakistan's independence, the Qaeda-Azam and Muhammad Ali Jinnah articulated a vision for a Muslim majority Pakistan, but one that would be and find strength in being a state of diversity and tolerance composed of different peoples, not only different sects of Islam, but different religions, as the white stripe on Pakistan's still extant national flag shows today. It's not my purpose here to run through Pakistani history or the various successes or failures of your civilian and military leaders in achieving that goal, and you are where you are today. I think it's remarkable and worth some degree of congratulations that your current civilian government is entering its third term in terms of a peaceful democratic tradition. But so let me move away from current Pakistani and U.S. politics to just a few more general observations about our topic here, peace without borders, and how I and the U.S. mission see our mission for peace building in Pakistan. Because really, unfortunately, it's the tendency of the media, in both real news and fake news terms, to focus on the horrible, you know, the terrorist bombings and the military campaigns that kill dozens or tens of thousands, and not focus on all of the daily efforts by Pakistanis, such as yourselves, in the cities, in the villages, who are helping Pakistan's most vulnerable people, especially women and children, especially in areas subject to Shiddat Pasandi. And this is where my office and my mission are trying to concentrate our efforts daily through grant programs, through cooperation with actors across Pakistan, NGOs, CSOs, for-profit organizations, media companies, social media companies. The U.S. wants to be, and I humbly submit that we're trying our hardest to be a helpful part of the civil society dialogue in Pakistan. Because in many ways we feel, and I see this in my daily grant and other work with organizations such as Shore Foundation and other NGOs working hard across Pakistan to give alternatives to violent extremism, give alternatives to, you know, other Shiddat Pasandi based philosophies and actions. But it is hard. The quality, the quality of life for the majority of Pakistanis is fairly to somewhat low. The majority of Pakistanis have to eke out a living, even if they're not living in areas of, say, you know, Baluchistan or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or Fatah, where they're daily threatened by the machinations of the Taliban or the Al-Haqqani network or other Shia Pasandi actors. Even those Pakistanis who are not threatened with their daily lives, in their daily lives with the threat of terrorist killing or injury, tens of millions of other Pakistanis are faced with basic economic hardship. A government that can't or won't collect enough taxes, fund enough infrastructure, those kinds of things. So I'm not saying all of this is a critique of Pakistan. These are just my observations as a foreign diplomat, but one who works daily with Pakistanis, like some of you, to build a better Pakistan. Let me conclude my remarks before I go on too long with a few philosophical or maybe even personal observations, if you'll allow me. What I've come in my 53 years to understand, my 31 years as a diplomat this month, is that there's inherent good and bad in human nature. I think however we conceive of God or gods, whether it's Allah or the multiple gods and goddesses in which your Hindu brethren and sisters believe, or just sort of an unclear divine spiritual source, all over the world, we in the U.S., I think one of the most important, if not the most important things that we have done as the United States of America since our inceptions, and what we're still doing today, and I think this is the basic driver of our work in Pakistan and our partnership with Pakistanis to build a better, freer, safer, more tolerant Pakistan, is that we believe in certain universal values and rights, including the right to freedom. And I realize that everyone defines that differently, and that freedom, unfortunately, is not a natural condition for humans. I don't think the creators of this world, ever envisioned this beautiful little blue-green ball to carry 7.2 billion people. But we're now in a state, and I think that's a big factor in why we're in such a crucial state, and these next 5 or 10 years will determine the fate of humanity and the fate of the earth, whether we learn to live together and prosper, or whether we destroy ourselves with possibly nuclear weapons. I think everybody in the U.S. and Pakistan and everybody else standing up to the maximum extent that she or he can stand up and call for more accountancy from your local government, from your police officers, from your village elders, from your city mayors, from your civilian or military rulers. I mean, it's peaceful change. It's peaceful change sustained over time that causes human progress. I was brought up in a small quasi-Christian faith in the United States called Mormonism, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I don't adhere to that faith anymore. But one of my favorite quotes from those so-called Mormon scriptures was, "The glory of God is the intelligence of man." I really believe that. And we all define intelligence differently, but what I define as the intelligence of man, again, having lived and worked all over the world, from some of the freest and most enlightened places in the world to some of the poorest and most terrorist-ravaged places of the world, and that's not Pakistan. Pakistan is in the middle of those two extremes. I speak of Yemen at the worst extreme. What we have seen, humanity's saving grace, has been civilization, tahzeeb and taqaddum, progress, and embracing of our tanawa, our diversity, in order to build a secure and stable and loving society. Love is the answer, and it's, I don't want to sound overly naive, because in places where well-organized, armed, and financed terrorist groups, again, whether it's the Taliban or the Al-Haqqani network or the Lashkar-e-Taiba, you know, you do need to fight fire with fire, but not only fire. You know, violence is one tool, and it's one that usually begets more violence. But sometimes you do need to fight fire with fire. So I'm not naively advocating that Pakistan or any nation give up its so-called kinetic efforts against armed hatred and terrorism. That should continue. And I think your government and armed forces and rangers are to be commended in the services they've provided to the Pakistani people for making many parts of your country safer and allowing the work that we are all trying to do in terms of civil society, in terms of trying to build a safer, freer, more tolerant Pakistan, where whether you're a girl wearing jeans or a burqa or a man who you know, wants to advocate his belief in Buddhism or Christianity or Shia Islam or Wahhabi Sunni Islam, where you'll all be treated with the same amount of respect in a society that respects your tanawwur, that respects your diversity and differences, rather than encourages the hatred and intolerance that has you turning against each other. And the U.S., I think, as we've seen during the very often bitter election campaign of last year, the U.S., you know, as much as we advocate freedom and tolerance, we certainly have some issues and problems with it in our own country. And those of us who are fortunate enough, like me, to live and work abroad with people around the world, we learn from our experiences and we try to take them home. There is strength in diversity. There is, and I think it's not even enough to say be tolerant, because tolerance is just sort of the baseline minimum. Okay, I can deal with you, but I don't have to like you. But the daily civil society promotion of diversity and loving one another, this is the foundation of what will save us if indeed we are to save humanity. And thank you very much for your attention.